One of the things that I started thinking about was that, and this is it's gonna tick a lot of Black Americans off, bro. Like, I'm just saying. I started looking at how other Blacks in America, non-Native Americans, perform in the same context. Now, I'm Nigerian. Shout out to my Naija boys and Naija girls out there. And so a lot of people don't like Nigerians. But a lot of the data, whether it's in Canada, US, UK, wherever you go, immigrant communities, Black immigrant communities, especially Nigerians, tend to outperform,
crush the game,
everybody else,
killing the game, like outperforming white people, killing the game,
outperforming. There's still, I think, numerically the smaller number, but
yes,
outperforming other locally born Black Americans.
That's right.
And then I was like, there's a conversation to be had here. I'm like, bruh, you're complaining about systemic oppression. You're complaining about the system is against you. Meanwhile, this other guy came from an even more impoverished environment, started after you, because when he came here, he didn't come with nothing. He didn't move out to not the 90210 or whatever the Podge zip code is.
Yeah.
He moved into the same neighborhood you was in.
Grinded.
And a lot of times, I'm going to just say it for what it is. Y'all weren't even messing with him because you were calling him the African booty scratcher. Happens.
That's right.
Happens.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolute facts.
You talking about how the system is against you.
Yeah.
You fighting another Black brother who came from another country.
Yeah.
Talking down on him. Meanwhile, that brother says, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do my taxi overnight. I'm going to go to school during the day. And I'm going to have my side hustle. Fast forward 10 years later, that brother done moved out the hood and can buy the whole hood.
Right.
You feel me?
Right.
And so like when I was looking at the stats, I'm like, bro, the idea that Black people are just like disadvantaged just by default because we're Black, I'm like, the data doesn't show that, bro. Like I can empathize with the fact that like, yes, there's been historic oppression and there's lingering effects. Like you can't take that away. But bro, you can't just tell me that because you're Black, the system is against you, because I'm seeing other Black brothers come from other places, and then I've heard people say like, "Oh man, well they don't discriminate against foreign immigrants the way they do." I'm like, bro, that means nothing.
No, that is not true.
Now you're just making up stuff.
Objectively not true.
Now you're just making up stuff because if the issue is they're against you because of your skin color, then that white man should not care where that skin color is coming from. It's just I don't like Negroes,
right?
So I'm not going. But at the end of the day, a lot of times, and I'm gonna just say this, I think, because we don't have that entitlement, we're willing to do what is absolutely necessary.
That's right.
That's
exactly right.
So you complaining about the fact that, and another one of my homies, like he said it, like I don't understand some of these situations. Like we were all presented with the same opportunity to work a triple shift. You didn't want to take it. I took it, and now you're mad at me that I'm taking your position. I'm like, bro, you didn't want to take it. But I took it because I understand this is what I have to do to move to so you can't be entitled and at the same time be upset that the system is against you. You feel me? And I think this is one of the reasons, like, and this is going to sound so uncompassionate, but I promise you, I say this because I am compassionate and I know I don't know all the details, but by the world standards, and I'm not saying there's poverty, there's disadvantage here. But you're talking to a brother who's coming from a worse form of poverty than you can even ever imagine. And so it's relative at some point. So what is oppression for you is opportunity for the other.
And that's perspective,
you can
right?
Quote me on that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And that's what, so half of my family is from Trinidad.
Yeah.
Trinidadians are another one of those foreign Black demographics that outperform other ethnic groups.
Yeah.
When they leave that country and come here to America specifically, outperform, and I think that may even be true. That may even be true when Trinidadians go to other countries. Because it's coming from.
You mean to tell me
here?
Yeah. You mean to, I'm not saying there's corruption everywhere, but generally speaking, the rule of law and economic principles work here better than they do back home in African countries. There's corruption in both, but here the corruption is a little more veiled. Back home, it's outright.
Yes.
So somebody from Nigeria says, "Omo, you mean to say, I go come here, I feel do this, that, and the third, and you go walk out for me because that's just how." Guys, like, say less, bro. You mean to tell me that if I do this, I put my money into this, I register for a business, I learn these certain tax and business codes, and it will probably work out for me. Why? Because by and large, the system works.
Yeah.
As opposed to back home where I can do the same thing, and a politician or a banker will look at me in the eye and say, "Oh, no, I'm taking it." Why? Because I'm taking it. And the system is so fractured and so broken that he can do this and get away with it.
Get away with it. And that's, dude, it's amazing that we're talking. It's providential, as a matter of fact, that we're talking about this. Yeah. Because I was having a debate with my kin about this literally last week. This exact same conversation. Yeah. And that is, I have friends who are from India, who said the same thing.
Another demographic.
Outperform. They, on the whole, outperform. Like I want to say, I want to say that Nigerians, I think, are actually number one
in terms of African populations. Yes.
Yeah. It may even be in the States. It may even be. Period. Nigerians might be at the top now. It used to be Asians. Like, I can't remember who's number one and number two, but basically, like, if you're looking at ethnic groups, maybe it's Indians. I just know that, like, literally, you got to go through a couple of demographics to get to white Americans. When you're talking about ethnic groups, as far as how they perform, you have to get through you got to get through a couple of demographics before you get to white Americans. Yeah. And so when you're looking at that, like, my Indian friends would basically say, like, we had a conversation one day. I was at work. We all in the conference room together. We just, we working on stuff. We're talking. Yeah. As they hold us up, we were all contractors. They hold us up in the conference room, and you got several different demographics sitting in the room.
A regular day in Toronto.
Yeah, right. This was Charlotte, North Carolina. It's like, people don't think that stuff happens in the South. It's actually
amazing.
Not that uncommon. Go to a major metro in the South. It's still a melting pot. Like, amazing. But I remember they're talking about back home. Like, my one friend, and he and I still text every now and again to this day. He was talking about, Indian holidays, and he was very proud of India. And I remember asking him and my other friend, I was like, "Hey, like, if y'all ever had the opportunity, like, would you move back to India?" And they literally answered at the same time. And he was like, "Yes," and she was like, "Absolutely not." And then they turned to each other and like, "How could you say that?" And so then they back and forth. They back and forth, And I was like, "Oh, this is interesting."
Exactly.
I'm watching this and. My one friend, I found out that he came from a different socioeconomic, rung on the ladder in India. He came from a different state and a different socioeconomic, caste. Yeah. So, like, he's talking about how he's like, "How can you say that? Blah 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 blah." And she turns to him and she's like, "Everybody didn't have as much money as you." She's like, "For me to get anything done in my hometown in India, I had to bribe." She was basically like, it's night and day comparison, rule of law here versus there. The fact that I was able to escape, I will never go back. Okay. She was very passionate about. She will never go back to that.
That's just such a. And this is something that some people just won't get. Something as simple as, here, you're black, you're disadvantaged. I want to drive to I keep saying the library, but let's just say I want to go to like the local credit union or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can just go there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you're going to have an easy time there,
Mm-hmm.
but you just have to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Someone in another country like Africa, like Nigeria, has to think, even before I get, first of all, how many credit unions do I have? Second of all, before I get there, I'm going to face incredible traffic,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm probably going to have to bribe a couple of officers on the road. So this is the trial before the trial. And that's just like one small example.
Yeah.
Did I have power and electricity all night?
Man.
If you think of like the basics of life that we take for granted here, and again, I'm not saying there's not poverty and disadvantage here, but let's think about poverty and disadvantage on both sides.
Yeah.
Things like being able to drive from one location to the other safely without facing danger, not just from the community, but also from the actual authorities. Simple as stable power. Something as simple as stable internet access. Especially in the world that we live in right now where internet is so available, I'm compassionate to people who come up in disadvantaged environments, but at the same time, I'm like, literally, you can learn almost anything that you want to learn for free. You feel me?
Man.
Like, do a paper route, do something. If you don't have access to it, first of all, everybody got a mobile phone. But let's just imagine like you're the worst of the worst. You ain't got a mobile phone. You got to take your butt to the library or the coffee shop or somewhere. Cool. Do something, get you a little bit of money, buy a bicycle. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying buy a bicycle, go to the public library, or go somewhere where you have access to internet and learn what you got to learn for free on YouTube University. I'm not saying, but you need to understand, like, as difficult as that sounds, and as uncompassionate as that might sound to say to the kid who's growing up in Southside Chicago or in Watts, like, bro, you need to go do a paper. I work at a coffee shop, whatever you got to do, buy a bicycle, ride freaking 4 miles to get to the library that you know has internet access because you ain't got internet at home. It sounds mean, but bro, my boy in Africa doesn't even have that. Like, he doesn't even have that. And then for him to land up here means his family, bro, I'm passionate about this. You know why? Because this is kind of my story, bro.
Yes.
I was born in Nigeria. We were pretty comfortable in Nigeria. My dad was the head of HR for a multinational pharmaceutical company. We pretty much sold everything. To move to Canada, I saw my father go from commanding the respect and attention of multiple people, chauffeurs, drivers, to working security, bro.
Wow.
Working 3 jobs.
Wow.
He would be a furniture salesman.
Yeah.
And then he would go work security overnight.
Wow.
Just to barely keep the lights on.
Bro, I didn't even notice. I didn't notice.
So, like, I'm not saying it's not hard for you. I'm not saying there aren't things that you have to work against. But it makes sense to me why immigrants are outperforming local communities here. Why? Because we don't have a sense of entitlement.
Yes. That is facts. Oh, man.
We know that where we are is better than where we're coming from.
Yes.
And maybe for somebody who this is all they've known, you don't have the perspective to understand that it's hard, but it could be a lot worse.
Yes.
And you actually have more things. Like life, like so much of life is just being able to see things through a different lens. Yes. And seeing that in as much as there's challenges, opportunity here. And maybe that shift in perspective of instead of seeing oppression, you see opportunity is easier for somebody who's coming from a context that is just intrinsically worse. So we just see it normally because we're wired that way. Okay, cool. You're not wired that way. So when somebody like me tells you, don't get mad at me. It's like, oh, you ain't one of us. Oh, you are Uncle Tom.
Boom. Oh,
Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Humble yourself. Because what I'm saying is, bruh, I am empathetic. I'm not saying some of what you're saying is intrinsic. This stuff riles me up because I've been in some of these conversations with these people who now start trying to question my blackness because I don't necessarily like adhere to everything. I'm like, bruh, be quiet.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm just saying you have access to a lot more than you even realize.
Dude.
So take what I'm saying, take this uncomfortable truth, and do what you want with it. But don't tell me I am black, and don't tell me I'm not loyal just because I'm telling you what is working, currently working.
Right.
Not theoretically.
Is.
Bruh, go work as hard as a Nigerian. Go work as hard as an Indian. Go work as hard as somebody from Trinidad. Do that for a couple years and tell me if you're still in the same position.
So
I'm going to get off my soapbox.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I'll admit it. Yeah, I get it. You be holding me down for a minute.